Hi, this is Dina for Splitcoaststampers. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to make this cute snowman easel card that sits on the edge of a shelf. For the base of the card, you'll need a piece of cardstock that is 4 inches by 11 inches, and it will be scored at 2 3/4, 5 1/2, and 8 1/4 inches. Fold the card over on the center score line, and then fold both of the panels in half toward the back side of the card. You can use a bone folder or another tool to make sure that all the fold lines are nice and tight. This is the basic structure of the base of the card. The card front will bend and sit against the structure of the card back, which is the bottom, sort of like an easel card, with a portion hanging down in the front. We need to trim the sides of the card base to kind of contour to the shapes on the card. So we're going to make some pencil marks at the edges and score lines and then cut. I folded my card in half. So at that center fold line, I'm marking in at 1/2 inch on either side. At the in-between lines, I'm marking in 1 inch from either edge. And then at the card edges, 1/2 inch again. And then I'm going to use my scissors and just cut to connect the dots that I made to create the shape of the card base. We're actually going to use one of those scrap pieces, so don't throw them away. I've included a printable template along with our photo tutorial over on Splitcoast, but I actually die cut most of the pieces for my card. You can use the template to find the approximate sizes of the standard shapes if you don't have those dies at home. If you don't have these standard shapes, the template is there for you to use. I used 2 circle dies. One is 1 7/8 inches and one is 3 3/4 inches. An oval that is 2 1/4 by 3 inches. A rectangle that is 2 by 2 1/2 inches. A heart that's 2 3/4 by 3 inches. And then I used the template to cut out the pieces of the scarf. I cut the arms of the snowman and the nose from the scraps that I cut from the side of my card base. I also used a bow die cut to decorate the present, but you could use ribbon instead. I traced around the scarf template with a pencil and then cut it out with scissors. To add a little more dimension to the pieces, I shaded them with a light gray marker before I glued them together. I'm using Touch Twin markers here, which are an alcohol-based marker. You could use pencils or whatever medium that you have that you're comfortable with. I used kind of a flicking motion to create some soft shadows around the corner of that horizontal piece to show that it's wrapping around. Also some shadows where creases might fall and a shadow to the bottom of that horizontal piece. On the back piece, I shaded from the top because I'm going to position that piece behind the main piece of the scarf and I want a shadow to fall there. Here you can see how I'm going to assemble it, and I'll just glue that behind the other piece. I saved that piece from the edge of my card base and I'm going to use that to cut the arms for my snowman. I folded it in half and I'm cutting first from the folded edge, cutting about 1/4 inch from the edge of the card. About 1 inch from the other end stop and cut out to the straight edge to create a little angle there, and then we're going to cut a triangular shape into each of those little angles, and that creates the hands for our snowman. This doesn't have to be perfect because sticks aren't perfect and snowmen aren't perfect. Here you can see the shape of the hands that we're trying to create. Just make those little fingers about 1/4 inch wide as well. Again, you'll want to save that longer cutout portion because that will become the snowman's nose. I'm going to color the arms using markers again, and I'm coloring both sides of the piece with a lighter brown for a base coat. And with a darker marker, I'm going to create some uneven lines to give the look of wood grain. I'm just changing the pressure that I'm using on the brush tip of my marker to create a variation in the lines. Again, this doesn't need to be perfect. We're just sort of giving the impression of wood grain there. Here is that second cutaway portion, and I'm going to cut a carrot nose from the pointy end of the piece, about 1.5 inches long. I'm using markers to color it orange, and I'll shade it along the bottom and along the larger end. Now I have all my pieces ready, and I'm ready to assemble my card front. I'm going to start with that larger circle, and I'm going to center it on the bottom portion of the front of my card. Now I know that the width of this circle is right for the base that I've cut. If your circle is slightly different in size, you may need to trim your base to accommodate the different size. When you glue the circle on there, be sure that glue does not go past the score line. You only want glue on that bottom panel or the card won't work. The part of the circle that goes past that baseline is going to be trimmed away so the front of the card can sit down nice and flat. The next thing we're going to do is determine the position of the oval and the head so that the head does not go past the top edge of the card base. We want our snowman to be able to fit into a standard envelope when we're all done. So you can position those two pieces and make a little mark with a pencil where the bottom of that oval is so that you know where to put glue. Again, we're only going to glue onto the circle. We don't want glue on the upper portion of the card base. So be real careful when you glue. If you need to fold the card up a little bit so that glue doesn't seep over the score line, do that. You can use the fold line of the card base to determine the placement of the head, and then just glue the bottom edge of that small circle onto the top of the oval. If you want to wait and glue the scarf on after you've positioned the head, that's fine too. When you position the scarf, be sure that it doesn't make your card too wide for a standard envelope. You'll notice later in the video that I have trimmed my scarf to fit, and I've also adjusted the template so that the scarf isn't so long. You'll position your carrot nose onto the face, sort of center the base of it, and you can put it at any angle that you choose. To create the eyes, sketch 2 circles with a pencil and then fill them in with a marker or a black pen. And you can add a smile as well if you want to. Here I've used the die cut rectangle and the die cut bow to create a little present for the snowman to hold. You can be creative here with another die cut shape if you want, if you don't have a rectangle or if you'd rather do something else. You could even attach a small box there or attach a gift card. I'm attaching that to my card base with foam tape so that it sits out a little ways from the snowman's body, and that will allow the hands to tuck in around the present when I get them attached. I die cut an oval earlier from brown cardstock, and that's what I'm going to use to create the snowman's shoes. I'm going to fold it in half just to create a center line to use as a guide, and then I'm going to turn the die 90 degrees and cut into the oval so that the long side of the oval creates the bottom of the shoe. I'll do the same on the other side. The heart die cut that we cut earlier will become the snowman's legs, and I want to create a line that kind of gives the look that his legs are crossed. So I'm just sketching that down from the dip in the top of the heart with a slightly curved line, and then I'm going to use a marker to shade away from that line to make the other side look like a leg that's behind the front leg. I'm going to attach the shoes using foam tape to give a little more dimension to this piece. For the leg in the forefront, I'm going to attach the leg to the top of the piece, centered right at the bottom of that front leg. And for the leg that's to the back, I'm going to put the foam tape on the back side of the heart and center that shoe to where that center of that leg might be. The leg piece will be attached to the lower section on the inside of the card, and you'll want to make sure when you position it that the shoes don't extend past the bottom of the panel if you want your card to fit into an A2 envelope. You may notice that I wasn't really careful about this measurement because I have some larger envelopes that I'm going to use, but if you're using an A2 standard envelope, be sure that your shoes don't go past that bottom line. Again, as before, be careful not to get any glue above the score line. You want the glue only on the lower portion of that panel. And that allows the top of the heart, which is now the snowman's knees, to stick up and hold up the card front in an easel formation. When the glue is dry, you can trim around the shape of the legs and shoes using scissors or a craft knife. The arm piece has a point in the middle, and we're going to position that pointing up. So we'll put some glue along the center of the piece. Hold that onto the back of the snowman until the glue is set, and then you can fold the arms around to the front. Where we had some score lines before, those will become his little elbows, and they can stick out when you tuck the hands in around the package, or they can fold in when you put the snowman in an envelope to mail. Here's the completed snowman card, and you can see how he sits up with his legs hanging over the edge of a shelf for a cute Christmas decoration. I hope you'll try this yourself and share your snowman in the gallery. Thanks for watching, and happy holidays.